Lawyers, did you ever win your case so much that the opposing lawyer quit or was fired from his job? In the office, they used to call it the trial of the year. It was one of my most successful cases ever, even so much so it ended the opposing lawyer's career. Not that I have intended to. The client I was representing had slim chance of getting away. He was accused of property damage because he was allegedly drunk. There was no reported CCTV of the accident, nor did the police manage to do any tests to prove that he was intoxicated, because the incident was reported only hours later and they had to track the car based on the description of the witness. Moreover, the witness claimed that this all happened because my client was drunk. If this proved to be true, then my client would lose his license, which would be detrimental for him because he worked as a truck driver. As the trial went on, the witness brought forward claiming that my client was indeed drunk, which would cause the accident to take place. Arguing one witness can be cleverly successful if done right by a lawyer with experience like myself. However, arguing multiple who claim the same story can get tricky. My opponent seems to have a very easy case on his hand and I envied him for that. The case was getting to an end and I could see my client getting more worried about the outcome. All of a sudden, one of the witnesses strongly wished to show one more piece of evidence that would put the nail in the coffin and conclude the case. The witness was brought forward, made similar claims as the previous one. He kept saying the guy was drunk. I have seen him drunk drivers before. He was definitely on something and all that. Then he proceeded to state, and I have the video to prove it. The statement made my heart jump. I could also see the opponent lawyer suddenly standing up looking worried. He wasn't aware of the video either. The witness proceeded to show the video to the court, indeed showing my client arguably tipsy. I could see my client feeling sorry for himself and ready to admit his possible guilt. But I tell him to shut up. Now we have them. This is perfect. I got a feeling that the drunk driver gonna win this case. I don't know, so let's just keep reading. I proceed to stand up and object, telling the judge that this evidence was not disclosed before the trial. Hence, crucial evidence regarding the case was withheld from us with the intention to catch us off guard, which means that my client does not have the chance to a fair trial. Disclosing relevant evidence is a must-do in all lawyers' textbook and usual process. The judge was extremely dissatisfied to hear such a silly mistake coming from the prosecution. As a result of not respecting the legal procedure, the evidence, the video, was not taken into the consideration for the final verdict. Sometimes the best way to argue something in court is not to pick holes into what the other is saying or not saying, rather than arguing the facts or the evidence. My client ended up agreeing with the person who accused him to pay the property damage, which amounted to a relatively small amount based on what was damaged. However, the accuser was left with a bill from an incompetent lawyer, which was twice as much as the amount he got back from my client. This was only unfortunate, however fair and well deserved if you employ someone who doesn't know how to do their job properly. I haven't seen that lawyer since. This is Disclosure 101. Maybe he went back to law school. Honestly, I thought the drunk driver is going to lose the case and have to pay like hundreds or thousands of dollars. Unbelievable. This lawyer was able to kind of win it for him because the other lawyer made a mistake. The story is just so unbelievable. I didn't like it at all, the situation I was in. You just had to pursue the law, didn't you? I said to myself while nervously trying to make my way through the horrible traffic I was stuck in. But that wasn't the whole situation. It was actually the least horrible part about it. I had a trial that day, one of my first big one, and I couldn't have been more nervous and anxious about it. The other side was represented by Mike Holland, a well-known and appreciated lawyer all across town. I was honestly afraid about losing my job, but I had to do it, and even if that was going to be my fate, I had to walk toward it with dignity, or at least make it the impression of it. Finally arriving, my client was already waiting, but seeing her asking me if I was alright and trying to man me up actually made me feel even worse. Mike was already there. I saw him on the way in, arrogantly smoking his cigar while drinking his expensive coffee fetched by his new assistant for the week. He is known to change assistants almost weekly for the simple reason of not meeting his needs perfectly. The way he liked to put it, still, the waiting list for getting this job is ridiculously long. Everybody wants to get through his fire loops in hope of becoming the next Mike Holland in town, or at least the second best. So we got a lawyer that is just a little bit cocky. Okay, so let's see what's going on. As the trial started, I felt the rush of adrenaline continuously pumping through my veins. In a few seconds, I had managed to pull myself together and decided to follow a completely different plan from what I had already prepared. Follow your gut, okay? I wasn't sure of it in my head, but my gut was in the right place. Okay, this is getting exciting. And they say that the gut lives life for a reason, as I managed to cleverly make out a counter-argument for every single one he brought to the table. Mike was getting visibly irritated and started to lose the sense of clear thought. He started to shout and spit out arguments he had already used before, and even worse, started to break the protocol any lawyer has to obey in court. Finally, I adjusted one of his stance, and rightfully so, and all of a sudden he grew silent. He stuttered, trying to find something to say, but he seems to just be blocked. The judge started asking if he is feeling alright or he needs a moment. But from out of nowhere, he changed completely, putting on the calm, arrogant mask on, saying, "Come on, George, I have known you for so long. Can't you see this lawyer is nothing compared to me? Just finish this already and let's all get home." Oh goodness, that lawyer is getting really cocky. A loud crowd gasp was heard across the room as the judge's face kept getting redder and redder from the anger and shame. It was a common thing for the lawyer and judge to know each other, but to refer him in the manner in the middle of the trial is shameful, outrageous, and clearly an insult. Only after he finished did Mike realize the word that just came out of his mouth. He had managed to get the best of him. The trial was interrupted. Mike was kicked out of the room and my client won. Mike did not speak again after that, as he very well knew anything more. He said he could be used against him in court. He was also fired from the firm he represented. Funny to think that now he is going to be the one that fetches coffee. He even gets that lucky that he could practice law in the future. Man, that lawyer is talking to that judge like he's his best friend or something. No, you cannot do that. You gotta keep it professional at all times and don't get cocky. Don't ever get cocky. If you get cocky, you will definitely lose the case. Sometimes you can just feel that thing will go your way. I have this client who was accused by his neighbor that his house was burgled and that the person responsible for it was my client. There wasn't much evidence against my client. There was his fingerprint belonging to my client which on the doorknob. Nevertheless, that could have been easily argued. They are neighbors after all, they do visit each other. However, the more serious issue playing against us were my client's previous convictions. He served time for burglary, so I knew the judge will not let us off easily. The opposing lawyer was well known for being an expert in burglary cases, and my colleague at the firm keep making fun of me because I would be schooled, but wasn't intimidated. Everybody need to lose at least once. So that person already had a burglary case against him, so it's gonna be really hard to win this case. So let's see how he win it. The opposing lawyer turned 10 minutes late. He apologized to the judge, blaming his lack of punctuality on the traffic. The judge was dissatisfied with, but allowed the trial to proceed. My opponent went on representing their case, but making small mistakes along the way, such as mispronouncing names or altering facts about my client's past convictions. This was quickly emphasized by my observation, and the judge agreed with his lack of professionalism. He was running on thin ice now. I could see his client getting more worried as well. He then went on saying what I knew he would say, bringing into discussion my client's fingerprint on the doorknob. This was pretty much the only reliable piece of evidence against us. I counter-argued it, claiming that the commonality of the fingerprint reaching the doorknob, given the fact that both individuals are neighbors, swiftly attributing the benefit of doubt to the whole situation. I expected a quick counter-argument to this given by the opposing lawyer. However, when I looked at him, I saw a blank face, like he wasn't expecting me to respond so well. That kinda surprised me that he didn't take such a response into consideration, as it seems just common sense. He started a little bit, then he kept on referring against my client's past conviction, which can imply the fact that my client would be more inclined towards committing such a criminal act. I raised the issue to the judge, claiming this argument had been overused and that it started to feel like a discrimination. A man should not be judged on the basis of his past actions. Who he now does not necessarily represent who he was in the past. The judge upheld my argument and criticized the opposing lawyer for not bringing anything valuable into trial. Appearing unprepared, he forgot to mention out killed. My client was found not guilty as it was not proven beyond reasonable that he was responsible for the burglary. Happy days. The person accusing my client was obviously not happy with the result. After the trial, I could see the opposing lawyer and his client arguing. He kept saying, "I won't pay you a dime, you completely blew it. I will let all my family friends who were interested in your service know how lousy of a lawyer you are. Maybe I should get in touch with the other lawyer." That was music to my ears. A week later, I have sent my card to him. After that, I signed 3 more clients, which all were recommended by the client I faced in court. Quite ironic, but oddly satisfying. As for the opposing lawyer, I heard he went back to drunk driving cases. Maybe he was a bit under the influence on that day too. So one side, the lawyer did not prepare all his evidence. The other side, he was well prepared. He knows the names of the street, the name of the client, and know how to pronounce it properly. And he knows every single detail. That's how you win all the cases. It was the morning of a very important day, and I was worried about being late to the court. I had a very big case that day and prepared for it like never before. I was determined to win. I had even taken care of resting well and eating a full breakfast. I got to court in time, but my client up to date regarding what stand we are going to get, and finally, as we were waiting to enter the courtroom, got the chance to check the competition. Surprisingly, only the client was present, nervously making phone calls, trying to keep it all together. You could see clearly he was panicking. Of course he was guilty, but I already knew that. The whole lawsuit was allegedly about a mixed up of papers regarding an old house. They were fighting over who owned it. Only later I managed to find out in my research that the other side tried to get a hold on it illegally. This is going to be a piece of cake, I thought to myself as I was watching the accused visibly panic and his lawyer nowhere in sight. Few moments later, though, he saw us trying to keep a calm face, excusing himself for being late and blaming the traffic. But the signs were clear even from his appearance. His ties a bit loose, his shoes unpolished, and his shirt badly ironed. He had obviously not studied enough and wasn't feeling prepared. He looked like he had a really long night before him. A few minutes passed and we were told the judge is ready for us. We entered and are allowed a few moments before it all began. I had only drank a little bit of water and tried to quickly recap the whole case in my mind. I could already see the judge settling in his seat and raising his hammer. Only he could not finish the accent as a loud gasp and a really vulgar curse word was heard across the room. What's happening? For a few seconds, everybody grew silent, even the judge, but everybody had their attention toward the other side, clearly feeling the tension there. The lawyer and the client stared at each other before anybody could say anything. "What did you just say?" repeated the client a couple of times. "My apologies, sir. I cannot imagine how this happened," started the lawyer, already breaking a sweat and all red. "Something wrong, gentlemen?" The judge's deep-toned voice was heard across the room, not implying the happiest attitude. "Excuse us, Your Honor, but my lawyer here apparently did not bother to bring me himself my case file. Therefore, I would like to apologize for the interruption and let you know I will be representing myself from now on, if that is okay, Your Honor." Everybody grew even more silent and the lawyer even more so. Finally realized what was happening, he quickly and nervously gathered his belongings, not many anyway, and left the courtroom without saying any other words. The judge then allowed the trial to proceed, considering all this, and rightfully so. I didn't mind that fact. It gave me even more time to prepare and maybe find new arguments and easier way for my client to win. A month passed and I was once again up and ready for this case. Arriving to court after speaking to my client, I let myself notice that the other side was represented by a new lawyer for another firm. From what I could tell, it didn't matter. I won anyway and was really proud of how fast I managed to convince the judge that the house was rightfully my client's. Only later did I find out from a paper release that the other lawyer was fired for making such a huge mistake, and about a week later, I saw him coming in and I interviewed at the firm I am also representing. Poor guy, he is not going to have a new job anytime soon. Yes, a lawyer gotta be prepared for every single case, and most importantly, do not forget your case files. Holy crap, that is just big face palm for me. So yeah guys, that's about the end of the video. If you guys enjoyed it, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Let's get this video to maybe 50 likes, that would be amazing. And don't forget to check out other videos in this channel, and make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on that bell notification so you know when I post new videos. And yeah, my name is Kelvin, and I'll see you guys next video.